Good evening, everyone. Council just met in closed session, and I will now look to the Deputy Clerk to provide a report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Council met in closed session pursuant to the Municipal Act and received an update on open litigation matters. Thank you.
All right, now I'll ask everyone at the table, please stand for the national anthem. Okay, I'd like to begin this evening's meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none, please note that the meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the Township website and youtube.com. Our annual Remembrance Day ceremony will be held Monday, November 11th at 10:30 a.m. at our beautiful cenotaph. We are thankful for our friends at the Port Colborne Legion as well as some of our long-serving volunteers who make this possible. Our next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, November 12th at 6:30 p.m. Are there any announcements or remarks from members of council? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'd just like to bring everyone's attention in gallery and listening here and from YouTube. There was a year-over-year sort of pamphlet from the library, which is a real sort of focus hub in the community, and it just involves the 2-year progress of data like library visits were up over $5,000 year over year. Our active members was about the same. New members was up. Programs offered went from around 150 to 230 offered programs, some of which is homeschooling and tots and prep for preschoolers. And so I think the biggest one, people that attended programs, we had 2,000 people the one year. And just the year gone by, we had almost 3,000. We were only 70 people short. So the library is a wonderful place. The staff that work there are very dedicated. And I just wanted to bring the public notice about what a great job they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Any other comments from any other councillors? Seeing none. Okay, so we'll move into the adoption of the previous council minutes. Are there any comments or corrections for the draft minutes listed on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, so I have a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held October 1st, 2024 be adopted as circulated. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Wainfleet, Councillor Gilmore. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we have no public meetings this evening, so we'll move right into delegations. We have one delegation this evening. Jeff Barnes is here to speak to us about a proposal for paving a portion of Feeder Lane. Mr. Barnes, you have 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, so I live at 41438 Overholt Road in Wainfleet here, and I sent him some pictures. I don't know if you guys received the pictures through the email of like when it rains, we end up with it's like 2 inches of mush, but it is gravel. But then the farmers, they muddy it up, and they do their best. Even right after I took those pictures, they did clean up their mess, right? But my problem is I got a lot of money in vehicles there coming in and out, and the gravel is like concrete when we're trying to do our maintenance on all our vehicles. Most of them are new. I got exotic cars. After it rains, it takes me 2-3 days before I can even get a vehicle out of there, just because of the mush, the mud kind of going underneath the vehicles. So I proposed to the head of the roads department. I phoned the mayor first about paving my road. Then I went to the head of the roads department to find out my proper process of, trying to get this road paved, and I offered to do it at my own expense. I own a sewer water main company, plus I own a paving company. So I would look after all traffic control, obviously, ensure the road while I'm doing it. I'm bonded. And that's pretty much it. I was just looking to pave my portion. So from Feeder Lane, my house is approximately 300 feet. I want to go, or 360 feet to my driveway. I want to go about 380 feet down the road, paving it. And I'm aware of like mixed designs and everything to send in, make sure everything's all engineered before I move forward. And I would imagine the town, everything's up on that too. But the biggest concern is even the dust at my property. We have a beautiful home. It's all glass. We can't even keep up with the dust on the glass. It's just a full-time maintenance. We have a very expensive pool that, turns the water quick, just because of the dust and stuff from the farmers and stuff like that, and that's about it, really.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Are there comments or questions from members of council? Councilor Gilmore, you go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to make sure I understand. Are you north of the feeder or south of it on Overhaul Road?
North.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm more on the
it starts there and goes to Forks.
Correct. I own the corner property right on Feeder Lane and Overhaul.
Before the bush, is that right?
I own the bush.
The bush, okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 380 feet from feeder north towards the Forks Road.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because the gravel builds right up there on the feeder.
Okay, and I just was trying to, yeah.
Yep.
Any other comments from any other councilors? Questions? Councilor Henderson?
Thank you for your concerns, sir. I'm just wondering, looking forward, you're saying that you wanted to do this at your own expense.
Correct.
Would that be in conjunction with all of the must-dos and should-dos from our road supervisor?
Yeah, 100%.
And then on top of that, what is your plan about maintaining that?
When I talked to the town, they said it's less maintenance for them, less broming, and less work with the road grader, because the road grader's constantly regrading the road. For me to maintain it, it's pretty much when I'm done. Normally how it works in our situation with the city of Hamilton and places where I'm bonded, Toronto, Listowel, Belleville, I'm all over the place. As soon as I'm done paving the road, they inspect it and they reassume the road.
And so if I might continue through you, Mayor. So I don't know that much about roads, Richard, and stuff, but base spec, like the base may or may not have to be improved, and the type of asphalt that you're putting down, I guess there are options for that, as I understand. So
Yes.
all of that would come through to the agreement with our road supervisor, correct?
Correct.
And what about maintenance and/or 10 or 15 years from now? Because the road's never ending here.
Yes, the roads are never ending. I can only maintain it as long as I live here. I don't mind maintaining the road one bit. I have, all the equipment, everything there. My paving company runs right out of that address. So maintenance is not an issue. I don't want to own the road, though. I just want to.
No, we don't want you to own the road either.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few other people I've heard
Yeah.
that,
We are aware
Yeah.
of Stan Castor doing it in the past. I will turn it over to Mr. Nan for a second, and I don't think, personally, I don't have an issue with that. Obviously, the road would obviously have to be constructed to our engineer's standards. The only real concern would be the long-term maintenance of that road, just based on cost. If it's gonna, I don't know what the life expectancy of the paving is going to be, but then obviously in the future, instead of just, throwing gravel down, we're now going to have to repave that section at some point or another. So I'll turn it over to Richard for comment right now.
Through your worship, well, I guess some of the considerations are that we are increasing the level of service on that one portion of the road rather than the entire road. And, I guess I would confer with our legal department just to make sure that there's an agreement put in place to make sure that things are covered, and we can work with the delegate for that. But again, I reviewed the roads need study, and the roads need study did not recommend it being upgraded at this point, but seeing as he's willing to pay for it, I mean, that'll be a consideration for council to decide.
I'm just going to turn it over to the CEO.
So through the mayor to all of council, so my recommendation would be if council is in support of the delegate's request to provide staff direction for us to undergo an agreement with our internal legal or external legal, depending on Jennifer's recommendation and her expertise, to draft an agreement and make sure we have all of the required documents in place, insurance, everything else, and then I guess it would be up to council to decide if we were to reassume the road, well, not reassume because we're not selling the road, but upon inspection and if the inspection is satisfactory, that it's up to the municipal standards, then we would have to then incorporate that into our long-term financial planning, and it would be an upgraded road, which we would have to then factor into our maintenance program going forward.
Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. Mr. Barnes, what's your timeline on this?
I'm not actually in a rush. I could do it like no problem at all this year. Like I say, I run my paving company right from that address. But like I say, I'm not in a rush. I could wait till late spring too. But I just like to get it done because, it's costing a lot of money to maintenance all that equipment there.
And I heard you state that you're fully bonded and insured?
Correct. I'm on the bonded preferred list for the city of Hamilton for 20 years.
Thank you.
Councilor Van Fleet, go ahead.
I want to thank you for the presentation. I also want to say I can sympathize with you because I lived on a gravel road for over 30 years, so I understand completely. My concern is if this was to happen, what about the heavy farm equipment that's going to go up and down it?
That's why I'm going to do an engineered mix, approved through use. Normally that's how it works for the roads. It's not like I can just put down my own mix. It's got to be engineered and approved and whatever they're looking for. Like the heaviest you can get is like an HL8, but most roads are HL3. But to me, it's whatever the town wants for a mixed design.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So there being no further comments, I will make a motion that the delegation from Jeff Barnes respecting paving of Feeder Lane be received and that staff be directed to work with the delegate to fulfill the request. Can I have a seconder? Councilor Van Fleet. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Perfect. Thank you.
Have a good evening, Mr. Barnes. Yeah, you can have that back now. All right. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. We don't have anything on the consent agenda this evening, so we'll move right into staff reports. So we're moving into staff reports. ASR 13, 2024, respecting the 2025 council meeting schedule. Ms. Christina, could you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the report before you is just proposing the regular council meeting schedule for the next calendar year. Staff have reviewed and tried to ensure that we don't have any conflict with conferences or known planned vacation time for members of council. So the hope is that it's satisfactory, but we're open to any feedback on amendments if needed. Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion that the administrative staff report, ASR 13-2024, respecting the 2025 council meeting schedule be received, and that the 2025 council meeting schedule outlined in the report be confirmed and adopted. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Anderson? Councillor Gilmore? Any discussion? Councillor Van Fleet?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm thinking that April 8th I might have a conflict, but I'm not sure yet. Just a note.
Councillor Gilmore?
There's a couple dates that are not going to work for me, but my schedule is getting increasingly more difficult to, so anyway, it'll be what it is.
All right. So then, with that being said, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we're going to move into the memorandum respecting the shared fire administration agreement. Ms. Louie, could you please provide a brief overview of your memo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to all of council. So this memo is just coming forward as a result of the Fire Management Oversight Committee that met on October 2nd. So the temporary shared fire administration agreement that both councils had passed in Wainfleet and Port Colborne was set to expire at the start of November. They are working through contracts for the fire administration team as we speak, as well as starting to draft the agreement for review. But that being said, it won't be completed this is our last council meeting prior to the expiration of that. So this is just a recommendation to extend. And the committee made it quite clear that December 31st was a hard deadline to entice some swift action on this to ensure that it is completed. So this recommendation is just to extend to December 31st for that shared administration until we can complete those agreements.
Perfect. So I have a motion that this memorandum be received and that council approve extending the temporary agreement to share the fire service administration services between the Township of Wainfleet and the City of Port Colborne to December 31st, 2024. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Anderson? Councillor Gilmore? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Oh, Councillor Anderson?
Yes, through you, Mayor, to Mallory. Mallory, some of the fine-tuning points of what's sharing on line costings and that, will we have a report? Will we have another report on those pieces of work?
So through the mayor to Councillor Anderson, so once we have a draft agreement between the municipalities on the costing and what will be shared and what won't be shared, again, it's just the administration team, so it won't include any suppression or fleet or anything like that in terms of the fire apparatus. So likely the vehicles that the fire administration team will be operating will be incorporated to some degree, but once that agreement has been finalized or is in at least draft form, it will come back before council.
Thank you, Mallory. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we're going to move into drainage staff reports. DSR 006-2024, respecting the consolidated South Wainfleet Drain number 13 culvert design update. Mr. Jemison, could you please provide a brief overview of this report?
Great, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So Drainage Staff Report 6 is providing an update on the ongoing project that was initiated in 2021 to look at the replacement of a major piece of infrastructure on our drainage system. So the consolidated South Wainfleet Drain number 13 drains about 8,000 acres of land, which all flows through an existing 2.5 meter square concrete box culvert, which is just east of us here in the hamlet. It goes underneath Feeder Road East, the Feeder Canal itself, and then Clarendon Road East. It's approximately 55 meters long and was installed in 1908. In 2021, we received some significant rain events and identified this as a bottleneck in the system. So the engineer appointed originally designed the replacement of the structure at 55 meters long, the same as that's there now, and following a soils and geotechnical investigation, the engineer has proposed a new revised design based on those findings. So the revised design is shortening the span of the culvert to approximately 25 meters, and instead is proposing to reconstruct the roads with 2 new crossover roadways on Clarendon Road and Feeder, similar to the other CSW crossings that we have on Feeder Road West, so at Drain 4 and Case Road, and then between Gilmore and Daly Ditch. So the proposed design for this culvert is as per the bridge code and goes to a 50-year storm event. It'll see an improvement as the 2.5 meter square opening is proposed to be at 7.3 meters by 3.15 meters, so 23 feet by 10 feet. So the staff report recommends council direction for staff to seek out grant opportunities and to include a portion of this project in the consideration of the 2025 capital budget.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. So I have a motion that DSR 6/2024 be received and that council direct staff to seek grant opportunities and include a portion of the CSW drain number 13 culvert replacement in the 2025 capital budget. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor Gilmore, Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Councilor Gilmore.
I just wanted to explain the reason for my chuckle. I think the taxpayers got their money's worth for the 116 years of amortization for that project. Anyway, it keeps getting better and better. I'm happy to see it at this stage now. It's still very expensive, but if we get another 116 years, we'll be doing pretty good.
Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. On the diagram that's on our handout here, where we have the two arms sort of coming out and meeting feeder, feeder is paved. So are those armatures paved back a few feet, as we do have concerns citizens find gravel to pavement a bit of an issue?
Through your worship, I'll answer that on behalf of Mark. We have considered this because we've had some complaints in the past. Currently, the design, we're currently doing one further up the road, drain 4, I believe. We're also including paving the apron on the Clarendon as well, the crossover. So we'll be including that as part of this project, paving a portion of the apron to stop some of that gravel from coming onto Feeder Road.
If I might continue, so in the sense of road language, by apron you mean that if I'm on feeder and I turn onto this adjunct road, that I will be turning onto pavement for what amount of distance?
Through your worship, probably for about 25 to 30 feet, you'll do the actual apron, and then as the road starts to taper forward, and then you get going straight again, that's when it'll change back to gravel.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, so then I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we're going to move into Public Works staff reports. PWSR 14/2024, respecting the baseball diamond restoration and upgrades. Mr. Nan, can you please provide a brief overview of this report?
Thank you, Your Worship, and to members of council. As council is aware, staff endeavor to search and apply for various grants offered by the province and federal government. Staff reviewed and considering an application under the Community Sport, Recreation, and Infrastructure Fund. Staff have reviewed the ball diamonds after receiving several complaints from user groups in the past couple of years. The current ball diamond consists of a gravel surfaced infield and grass outfield. During rain events, staff have observed ponding in the infield on both diamonds and are aware the surface itself has been difficult to dry out and maintain due to the moisture. The township is finalizing the current project from the grant we received earlier. This grant application included installation of drainage, etc. And this application will now consider putting drainage in the outfield and infield, as well as resurfacing the infield from gravel to a clay sand mix, which is a normal ball diamond configuration, as well as repairing backstops, fencing, and any other incidents, as well as installing dugouts, which we currently do not have on our ball diamonds. Staff are proposing applying for the grant, but unfortunately the grant deadline is at the end of October. So we brought this forward to council for consideration due to the fact that we need to include a portion of the grant has to be referred by council that they're recommending that we proceed with the grant and that they will have the funds available to pay the town's portion during the grant process. We are applying for a 2-year grant process and we'll be including that during our budget deliberations, but we need the resolution from council in order to proceed forward.
Thank you, Mr. Nan. So I have a motion that the Public Works Staff Report PWSR 14-2024 respecting baseball diamond restoration and upgrades be received, and that council approve the proposed plan for the replacement of the baseball diamonds contingent on a successful grant application from the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, and that council allocate the necessary capital funds to support the baseball diamond restoration and upgrade project in the 2025-2026 capital budgets. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Van Fleet, Councillor Gilmore, any discussion? Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. Richard, are you prepared to get in on the October 29th deadline on this?
Through your worship, yes, I've been working with Daryl, our new supervisor for Parks and Recreation Services. We've reviewed the application, and we've already started the application, but we didn't want to get too far in, knowing that we need the resolution from council for commitment of funds. We have prepared some of the cost estimates, and we have gotten some quotes already. So we're confident that we can probably have it completed by the deadline for the application.
Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
If I might continue through you, Mayor. I have an interest in the bleachers. You're looking for sets of four? Four that are separate?
That's correct. They're individual bleachers. They're larger bleachers, but we're going to put them on the ball diamonds because we currently keep moving bleachers around. And so moving bleachers on a regular basis, they get damaged during moving. So we plan on putting these permanently in those locations, one for each, two for each diamond as part of the project as well.
So if I might continue through you, Mayor. So you're going to do some sort of tie down either to ground or cement on those?
Through your worship, we will put either a granular or a concrete foundation underneath them.
If I might continue, Mayor, how many rows were you looking at purchasing height?
We're looking for the 5-tier, because as soon as you start getting above 5-tier, you start needing to get into handicap accessibility, additional railings, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking for the 5-tier, similar to what the Fall Fair Group purchased a couple of years back, the ones we used out by the tractor pull area during their events.
If I might continue, Mayor. So I believe that 5 tiers has a compulsory hand side rail.
They do have a compulsory slide handrail, but we don't have the additional spacing. As soon as you get higher than that, there's additional structural components that they add to it.
And so I'm probably fairly aware of the difference between going 3 versus 5 in the sense of costing. So your 5, is that because of spacing, because of safety, or in the population of people that would be at these diamonds?
Let's put it this way, we're going to try for 5, but depending on the outcome of the grant and depending on the outcome of the overall costing once we get into the construction phase, we may phase it down to a 3-tier, similar to, you know, let's face it, by the time we find out about the grant and get the actual costing for construction, if we have to modify it slightly, this grant doesn't really offer a contingency, but we're going to put a little bit in as we do our numbers. It's not comparable to the last grant we got. We were allowed to put a 25% contingency on it, and this grant isn't offering a line item for contingency. So if we need to scale it back from a 5-tier to a 3-tier, we'll do it at that time.
If I might continue, Mayor. So I think the difference between 5s and 3s is 3-4 times costing multiples. So would it not be better to have extra 3s versus 5s that people can fall off from 7 feet instead of 6 or 2?
Well, unfortunately, we're hoping nobody ever falls off any of them, but that is a possibility. It's just the more space you take, that means more foundation work and more preparation work.
But I think that
it may offset costing, but again, if we can minimize the amount of trimming and grass mowing around things, that also cuts back on some of our maintenance costs.
Yeah, I think the step up to a 3-tier is 2.5 feet, so all the young 20-year-olds could certainly jump up there. And I think the other are just a couple of, 15-inch step up. So I'm just wondering whether you get more money spent on more units if you figure there's expansion on our soccer and sports fields and stuff.
Yeah, when we when we apply for grants, we put down bleachers. We don't specify sizing or anything. So we'll find down the road, depending on the money that's available at the time of construction, if we go with more 5s or more 3s to offset some of the costing. But we can definitely add additional 3-tier rather than the 5-tier, if that seems to be the preferred way we go.
And do you have a population attendance at these baseballs?
Unfortunately, I do not, because it varies so often. Some of the tournaments, for instance, they get a lot more people during tournaments, but we're also trying to make the ball diamonds suitable so they can have more tournaments as well. So we could end up with a larger population attending events if we improve the fields.
So just having said that, then more sets of bleachers would, for population seating, would be a better option, correct?
Through your worship, yeah, that we will definitely take that into consideration.
I know I'm going over and over this, but
That's okay.
I've looked at some costing, and I always like to get a dollar for a dollar. You should probably well know. Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.
Mr. Dan, I have a comment. I think you kind of just touched on it. So in your opinion, obviously with these upgrades, especially to the base and the dugouts, especially, it potentially does also make our ball diamonds more attractable to different baseball associations, not just specifically here, or the possibility of bringing new associations in, which in turn could create more revenue for our baseball diamond area in general, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Just to give everybody a heads up, we had a couple of people come to ask us to have tournaments here until they came and looked at the infields and saw the granular, and they said, yeah, we don't want to play here.
I'm honestly thinking, fastball, hardball, like they're not going to potentially come without, a good solid sand base, right? Nobody wants to slide across the gravel stone, right?
Very true. It's interesting that we may actually have an allocation policy coming for ball diamonds, but I'm looking forward to it if we get that much use out of it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay.
Just a comment. We could have used this 25, 30 years ago. Like I said, I had the scars to prove it on my knees. But yeah, just for Councillor Anderson, there used to be major tournaments here years ago with 40, 50 teams per weekend. So it is good, it can be good revenue. And I know lots of people are going to thank you if this goes through.
All right. Being no further questions, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, always do that first. Oh, you didn't catch it? Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to the review of correspondence. We have 4 items of correspondence on the agenda for consideration this evening. Correspondence item C380, respecting the Canada Community Building Fund. Councillor Anderson, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you wish to make a motion?
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion that the Council of Wainfleet supports and recognizes correspondence C380, which is a correspondence from the City of Quinte West, and that's respecting the Canada Community Building Fund, which for some people is the old gas fund. It used to be called the gas fund. Now they call it this. And basically what it is, it's the whereas and the whoases from Quinte West are looking for a greater percentage of recognition and funding for smaller communities and rural. So I think this suits our community. So I'm just asking for support in that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Wainfleet. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we're going to move on to correspondence item C433, respecting the alcohol sales in convenience stores. Councillor Gilmore, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you wish to also make a motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to move that we support this. I just want to state my rationale, regardless of my position on all the whereases, which I think are all valid. It's mostly, I asked to have it pulled surrounding the notion of permitting municipalities to make decisions in their municipalities that benefit themselves versus being dictated to. So if, I'm not suggesting that we would do any of this here. If they want to do that there, but the problem in this province and country is that municipalities don't have any power to do anything. So that's why I asked to have it pulled, even though I totally agree with all the whereases, but just wanted to be clear on that.
Thank you, Councilor Gilmore. Can I have a seconder? Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. So moving on to the correspondence item C434, respecting the joint resolution campaign on physician shortages. Councilor Gilmore, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you wish to make a motion?
I'd also move that we support this resolution just because it makes sense.
Absolutely. Can I have a seconder? Councilor Van Fleet, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Okay, moving on to correspondence item C435, respecting request to increase the tile drain loan limit. Councilor Gilmore, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you also wish to make a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I move that we support this. And the main rationale is the lack of any update for 20 years. So it's the principle that it's just sat out there. It hasn't been adjusted for inflation like other programs that need to be adjusted within the province. But it's just the ongoing, we're not keeping our eye on the ball problem.
Okay, so again, can I have a seconder? Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Okay, so moving into bylaws, I have a motion that bylaw number 42, 2024, being a bylaw to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2025 for the Township of Wainfleet. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor Van Fleet, Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Seeing none, call a question. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none. We have no further items for closed session this evening, so we'll move into the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council. I have a bylaw, or a motion that bylaw number 43, 2024, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the actions of the council at its meeting held on the 22nd day of October 2024, be read and passed this 22nd day of October 2024. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor Van Fleet, Councilor Gilmore, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. So there's being no further business, the meeting is now adjourned.